Well, friends, we will continue with our discussion about the history written during the Sultanate period. If there is anybody from Hindi medium, please let me know. Uh, we have last time we have discussed about Ziauddin Barni. Yeah, Ziauddin Barni's Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi we have discussed. Now, interestingly, the next book is also known as Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi. It is written by a person called Shamsuddin Siraj Afif, who was born in 1356, and his father was in government service, and he has seen the regime of different sultan, as well as he has seen uh, Amir Taimur's attack on Delhi, how the Delhi population was massacred. And in his book Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi, this book is written on the form of mankib. Now, what is mankib? Mankib is a kind of text which describe the life and message of some pious person like Sufi. For example, like we have the biography of spiritual person, that is, and the Mankib follows a similar pattern. In English it is called hagiographical account when you talk about some saint or some Sufi. So this book is written in the form of Mankib, and this form is, as I said, generally it is used to describe the life of some spiritually evolved person. And interestingly, Afif applies the similar kind of technique, similar kind of literary trend to describe the life of Muhammad Firoz Shah Tughlaq. And in line with this Mankib tradition, he projects Firoz Shah Tughlaq not only as Sultan but as Wali also. And the meaning of Wali is someone who is spiritually minded, who is very close to Allah. And he says that as Firoz Tughlaq was a very pious Muslim, he imposed only those taxes that is sanctioned by Quran, and it's because of his pious nature that during his regime there was a peace, prosperity, there was no attack of Mongol, and there were no revolts. And it is only after the death of Firoz Tughlaq that Delhi has witnessed the invasion of the Mughals, and there was this, Delhi was sacked and large number of people were killed. So he described the good qualities of Firoz Tughlaq throughout the text. The book is having five parts, and interestingly, he doesn't refer this book as Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi, but this book later on came to be referred as Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi. He described as Mankib, and it is having five parts. And at numerous places, he described how pious and how sensitive, how kind-hearted Firoz Tughlaq was. Like, for example, during the expedition of Bengal, when he saw that the Muslim soldiers are died during from both the side, he cried because he did not like the killing of the Muslim, and he used to repeatedly visit the Sufi shrine, especially the shrine of Nizamuddin Auliya. And then Afif goes on describing that the God has created two words. Allah has created two words. One is the world on this earth, and another is that is a next word, that is a life hereafter, after the death. And to take care of these both the word, that is life on the earth and life hereafter, life after this, he appointed Prophet Muhammad. But Prophet Muhammad was a very kind-hearted person. So when so long he was here, he worked for the welfare of the Muslim. But then later on, he divided responsibility to the two group of people. One were ulemas, who are supposed to look after the welfare of the Muslim in the life hereafter. So, the ulemas are supposed to guide the Muslim on the right path. They are supposed to ensure that the Muslims are remaining true Muslim, pious Muslim, so that the life hereafter will become better. They will go to Jannat. That is the meaning of it. And to take care of the people while they are on earth, the responsibility is given to Sultan, who is supposed to rule according to the dictate, according to the rules laid down in the Islamic tradition. And the far-sighted Sultan, Afif writes that the Sultan who is successful should inculcate some desirable qualities, and those desirable qualities in Persian language called mukammat. Now, what are the different kind of mukammat, that is the desirable qualities that the Sultan is supposed to have, is described by Afif. Like he says, shafakat. Shafakat means compassion. Sultan should have be compassionate to all the creature of God. Afu means forgiveness. Somebody has committed sin, Sultan should have capacity to forgive. Adl or fazl, that is justice and wisdom. Mukatila. Mukatila means you are ready to fight against you the demon within you. Like we all are having some demons, some evil qualities like greed. There is a lust, there is a greed, there is a anger, there is a jealousy. These are the different baser qualities which human being possess, which all of us possess. And really one of the important dimension of religion is to enable a human being to rise above that kind of baser qualities. And for that you may have to fight against those qualities. That means you need a lot of self control. So he should be having that self control, and he should be willing to fight against his baser instinct, that is mukatila. And then muhariba is the war. Mukatila is the war that you do within against your enemy. There are enemies within, and there are enemies of religion outside. That means the people who are opposed to Islam or who doesn't follow Islam. And uh, he says a sultan should cultivate the quality of muhariba. That means willingness to fight for true religion. Then he should have ithar, generosity. Then azmat and rab, that is power and majesty. Then Hushiari, we know that that is a very common word. We use it in all the languages, Marathi and Hindi. Hushiari means you are able to anticipate what is going to happen, and you are able to work properly. And then Fateh. So all these qualities, Sultan is ideally speaking expected to cultivate. That is what Afif writes in his book, which is generally referred as Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi. Uh, Sultan, as I already this point is already covered, that Sultan Firoz Shah was considered as an he writes that he was Imam of his age. Sultan Firoz Shah was so kind-hearted that he even used to arrange for the dowry of the girl if her parents are poor. Then he also described different political event. Like one of the event that is described by him is that Ghasuddin Tughlaq, the uncle of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, how he pressurized the Bhati Rajput ruler, that Rajput ruler should give his daughter in marriage to his brother Rajiv. And when Rajput ruler was not willing to give, he pressurized them and asked, and finally that daughter, she agreed to marry Muslim prince. Rajiv was married to that girl, that lady, and in fact, she gave birth to Firoz Shah Tughlaq. So Firoz Shah Tughlaq's mother was originally a Hindu princess, Hindu Rajput princess. Then Afif also described the circumstances in which Firoz Shah Tughlaq became Sultan. Muhammad bin Tughlaq was on expedition to Sindh, and he died suddenly. And Firoz Shah Tughlaq was a person who was having a religious bent of mind. He did not wanted to become Sultan, but it was noble who requested him and compelled him that you are the most suitable person to be the sultan. And finally he became sultan. And how, because of his pious nature, because of his dedication to Islam, that many of his enemies, they either surrender or they just lost the battle against him. He attributes all these things because Firoz Tughlaq was a pious Muslim, and that is the reason he could be successful. He also writes that he changed the policies of Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin Khilji has made the policies that the soldiers will not be given land in lieu of their service, but they will be given the paid amount, like salaries. But Firoz Tughlaq, he changed this, and then he started. He revived the old practice of giving land to the soldier in lieu of their service. Then this book also gives a lot of information about the economic prosperity And that economic prosperity, according to Afif, has resulted from the due to the policies and due to the pious nature of Firoz Shah Tughlaq. It also gives information about the construction activities of Firoz Tughlaq, like different canals and different cities. Then there is another book written by Afif, Shamsuddin Siraj Afif, and the book is Tarikh Jahandari. And in this book, he gives what makes an empire successful. You should have a strong and contented army. Treasury should be well filled. There should be an very judicious and equitable system of taxation. Taxation system should be efficient, and you should have efficient intelligence system. Uh, then about historian also, he writes that this is already covered. Well, and Afif, he also says that historian should not only narrate the event, but he should be philosopher, teacher, and guide of the society. So this is all about Afif, his book. So we have two person writing the book, which is titled same. First, we have Ziauddin Barni, who wrote Tariq-e Firoz Shahi, and Shamsuddin Siraj Afif. His book is also known as Tariq-e Firoz Shahi. Then we come to the genre, or we come to the category of historian who were kind of poet historian, and in that category we have Amir Khusro, Hassan Nizami, and Isami, and their work is having a lot of literary value. For example, Hassan Nizami, who lived in 13th century, he gives description of Muhammad Ghori's expedition. But the emphasis is mainly on the literary value and not on historical fact. Then Isami's text book is Futuhas Salatin, which was written in 1349, and it is a versified history of Muslim rulers. Muslim rulers in India, he wrote in a poetic versified form, and that begins with Muhammad Ghazani's regime, and it closes with the foundation of Bahmani Sultanate in Deccan. He was in the court of Bahman Shah, and this Isamis family who were at Delhi, they were forced to shift to Dawlatabad. Muhammad bin Tughlaq was a sultan who experimented a lot, and one of his famous experiment was shifting of capital. He shifted capital from Delhi to Dawlatabad, Devgiri. Uh, and he forced the population of Delhi to march to Dawlatabad, and that has resulted into a lot of hardship because distance was too much during those days. The means of transportation were not developed. People has to walk, and many of them who were old and sick, they just died. And so was grandfather of Isami. Isami's father died when he was quite young, and he was brought up by his grandfather. And this grandfather, who was forced to journey from Delhi to Dawlatabad, died on the way. And obviously, Isami, he carried a lot of anger against Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and his anger and his hostility against Muhammad bin Tughlaq is quite obvious in his text. The early part of this book is based on popular legend and oral tradition, but later on, from Alauddin Khilji onwards, it is quite authentic. He praises Alauddin Khilji because he could protect Delhi from the raid of the Mughals. Asami uses stories, legends, anecdotes, and common reports. So his history, it appears like a kind of epical kind of writing, Futuhas Salati. Then the next very famous poetic historian is Amir Khusro. Amir Khusro, he was very famous poet of his age, and he was called Tuti a Hind, that means parrot of India. And he was disciple of this Sufi Sant of Delhi, Nizamuddin Auliya, and he has seen the regime of six sultan, Kaikabad, Bughra Khan, Jalaluddin Khilji, Alauddin Khilji, Kutubuddin Mubarak Shah Khilji, and Ghasuddin Tughlaq. And he gives a lot of description about the social and political economic condition of the period. He was a kind of exceptional scholar. He has believed to have written 92 books, and these are the some of the book. For example, Ashika. Ashika is a love story between son of Alauddin Khilji. He was Khizr Khan and the Rajput princess Dhaval Rani. And the rough text is provided by Khizr Khan, and based on that text, he waved his story called Ashika. Then there is another text written by him called Nu Sipir, and in newspaper, he gives a description of the different people of India, their way of life, their language, geographical condition, weather. And in this text, we do find the information about the Hindu way of life and their belief system. But of course, he is not free from religious prejudice, neither it can be expected of that period. He definitely, most of all these Muslims, generally speaking, they consider as the Islam is the only true religion, and everything other than Islam, and especially Hindus in India, as they came in contact with Hindus, are not a religious people. What they are doing is not sanctioned by the religion. Then he wrote a book called Tughlaq Nama, which described the successful expedition of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Then another book written by him is Khaizan ul Futu, and that describes the achievement of Alauddin Khilji. So, though the subject matter is historical, he is basically a poet, and his representation of history is also not very systematic. The chronology is not reliable. Well, now, Farishta was another person of this period, and the significance of his book is that is Tariq-e Farishta. Tariq means history. Tariq-e Farishta is that he gives description of the South India. Uh, it's a graphic account of the event that was happening in the South. He seems to have read a lot of history before writing, as he make reference to the 35 works. Mm, and interestingly, Farishta, he wrote about Sultanate period, but he lived in the Mughal period. So he wrote really about history, that is the things which had already happened. Well, then Sufi Hamid Kalindar, he was a Sufi person, and he wrote a text called Khair ul Majlis, and he gives information about the regime of Muhammad bin Tughlaq and how Sultan was against Sufis. Within the Islam also there is a conflict between this Orthodox Muslim and the Sufis, who were relatively liberal. And Muhammad bin Tughlaq, probably he came under the influence of Orthodox Muslim ulemas, and he tortured some of the Sufis. He forced some of the Sufis to join government job and don't just remain a sant. And that description is given in this book. There was a scarcity of grain. He write about that. There was a economic instability, and how the sant they used to urge the rich people to help the poor people. And in this book we also get information about the some of the well-known characters of the empire. Then next type of history writing, that is Wasiyatnama. Wasiyatnama was a type of history writing, as I told you in the last class, uh, that it was a kind of will, and in that will, the Sultan or the elderly person will impart some moral lesson to the coming generation. And Wasiyatnama of Balban is very famous, and he gives a lot of instruction to his son, where he writes that ruling over the people is not an ordinary affair. You should take it as a very serious duty, and you should discharge it in a very responsible manner. Uh, Balban says that the king's heart is a reflection of God. What God wills is reflected in the king's heart, and then the king act. But the king should remain on the right track. He should be pious. He should be pure. His character should be good. He should not, unnecessary should not do injustice to somebody. That kind of instruction he gives in his Wasiyat Nama. Mm, the king should live in such a way that all his acts are appreciated by the people. Uh, the king is a real king when he does justice to all the people and root out all oppression from his domain. The king and his officers should be honest. Uh, all the people, if they are honest, all the people will be drawn to them. Dignity, royal dignity must be maintained. Do not, luxuries. You should not. The king should not indulge in luxuries, but he should live a life of austerity. Kingship and bravery are twins. That means if you are not brave, you cannot be a king. Somebody will just attack you and kill you. The king should be full of ambitious, and without ambitious, the kingship cannot be successful. The kingship is not possible without justice, pomp, army, treasury, confidence of the people, and trusted servant. So these are the things that instruction that Balban gave to his son through Wasiyatnama. Uh, I'll just go through, and if find something that needs an explanation, I will explain. Otherwise, this text will be available. Whatever is loaded earlier in the classroom, I have updated it now, and this updated version I will upload it after today's class. You can also go through. About an expedition, Balban gives a very practical advice. He says the king should not, to the extent possible, should not in person march against the enemy. He can send his people, he can send his commanders, uh, but you should be very careful. If the king goes on expedition and if he fails, that means his prestige is lost. So if he is going for expedition, he should ensure that he is coming back successfully. Uh, Revenue and expenditure, a king should have an eye on it. Half of the revenue should be always kept for emergency. The army, the merchants, and the subjects, they should be kept happy. Then apart from this, there is also an account of Al-Biruni and Ibn Battuta. This Al-Biruni and Ibn Battuta's account we have already discussed during the discussion of the Arab historiography, so I'm not going to discuss it here once again. But you must remember that they were also the historian of Sultanate period. Al-Biruni came with Muhammad Ghazni and wrote Tariq-ul-Hind, and Ibn Battuta wrote his Rihla. Ibn Battuta came to India during the period of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Then there was an Italian traveler, very famous Marco Polo, and he visited southern part of India, and his description gives some important information about the Indian peninsula. Now, this is all about the Arab. This is all about the historian of the Sultanate period. Now, let us take an overview and try to understand what are the salient feature of this period. Well, this the very important thing is that the Sultanate era has given us a history, or they started writing history which was non-existence in India. Um, the professional historian as a class is a gift of Sultanate period. As the history has become professionalized, we see the gradual improvement which we see more obvious during the Mughal period. Most of these historians, they were coming from the respectable, reputed family. They were generally high qualified, and many of them were, participating in the political event. They were quite familiar with the political circle, and this has, increased their credibility as they were quite close to the political circle. The subject matter of this history is mostly political. There are military expeditions, conspiracies in the court, and though we do get certain information about the social and economic life, but that is much on the lesser side. Most of these writers, they were patronized by Sultan, and obviously they showered a very high praise on Sultan. Uh, the purpose of history was to educate and teach the moral value. All these historian, they followed the Hijri era. There was no attempt of connecting event. There was hardly any causation. The Hindus, who were in majority, they generally form a very passive people. We don't get much information about the activities of Hindus, about their life in this text. It was mostly centered around the lives of the Muslim nobility.